There is a specific kind of blended family dynamic that only exists in certain families. The kind of dynamic where the ex-wife's new husband is genuinely friends with the ex-husband, where the boundaries between the past marriage and the current marriage become fluid enough that the two men who married the same woman actually enjoy each other's company, where they have dinners together, where they laugh at each other's jokes, where they work together on business projects, where they, in the case of the Roloff family, become so close that one of them agrees to become a private tour guide at the other one's farm. Tonight on LPBW Update, we are walking through one of the most surprising and quietly beautiful subplots of the entire post-Matt and Amy divorce Roloff family story. The story of Chris Marek, Amy Roloff's second husband, becoming a Roloff Farms tour guide for her ex-husband Matt Roloff. The story of how these two men, who share Amy in different roles, developed a friendship that has genuinely surprised fans, family members, and even themselves. The story of what Chris does when he gives farm tours. The story of why Zach Roloff, the son who had historically handled the private tours, gave Chris his blessing to take over. The story of what this friendship tells us about the healthy blended family ecosystem that the Roloffs have quietly built, without much fanfare, over the past 9 years. Because this is not a normal reality television storyline. This is not the ex-husband and the new husband hating each other and stirring up drama for cameras. This is something rarer. This is genuine friendship between two men who could have been enemies and instead chose to be friends. And it is one of the most important quiet stories in the entire Roloff family narrative. Let us start with who Chris Marek is professionally. As we have covered in other videos on this channel, Chris Marek is a licensed real estate agent based in Portland, Oregon. He has been in the real estate business for over 20 years. He works with Keller Williams and has been affiliated with Knipe Realty. He has a 5-star rating on Zillow and has completed over 109 successful home sales in Oregon. He is, in his primary career, a serious professional. Before becoming a real estate agent, Chris worked as a photographer. He has always been someone who combined creative aesthetic sensibility with professional discipline. He knew how to compose an image. He knew how to close a deal. He knew how to run his own business independent of any spouse's influence or celebrity. All of that made Chris a self-sufficient professional who did not need to be involved with the Roloff family business in any capacity. He had his own career. He had his own income. He had his own reputation. He was, in every meaningful sense, professionally independent. But something happened as Chris got involved with Amy Roloff and, by extension, with the extended Roloff family ecosystem. He and Matt Roloff, Amy's ex-husband, started to become friends. This might sound strange. It should not have been possible in most family dynamics. Matt had been married to Amy for 29 years. Chris was now married to Amy. The two men were, in a certain sense, competitors for the same woman's affection and history. But in the Roloff family, that dynamic did not lead to conflict. It led to friendship. Matt and Chris found that they had a lot in common. They were both men in their 60s. They were both practical, business-minded, no-nonsense guys. They both loved Amy in their own ways. And they both wanted the family to function well for the sake of the shared children and grandchildren. Amy has spoken about how her ex-husband and current husband became friends. In February of 2024, she and Chris did an interview with Us Weekly promoting the 25th season of Little People, Big World. Chris said in that conversation that he was glad Amy was getting more comfortable with Matt and him being friends. He said, and here is a direct quote, "When Matt and I get together, she knows it is safe. We are not talking about Amy. No one is throwing her under the bus. That is significant." Chris and Matt had established, between the two of them, that Amy was off the table as a topic of conversation. They talked about business. They talked about the farm. They talked about their own hobbies and interests. They talked about the Roloff kids and grandkids, but they did not gossip about Amy or use their conversations as opportunities to dig into her past. That respectful framing is what made the friendship possible. Chris had made it clear from the beginning that he was not going to be the kind of second husband who tried to weaponize his position against the first husband. Matt had made it clear that he did not view Chris as a threat or a rival. Both men had made adult choices about how to interact with each other, and the result was a genuine friendship. Now, let us talk about how Chris ended up becoming a Roloff Farms tour guide. In 2022, the family feud between Matt and Zach Roloff over the sale of the farm had reached a serious low point. Zach had been the family member who historically handled the private tours at the farm during pumpkin season. These are the paid tours where fans can pay to have a Roloff family member personally show them around the property. Matt led some. Amy led some. Jeremy had done some over the years. Zach had done many. It was a source of income for the farm and a way for fans to have a personal connection with the family they had watched on television. But after the failed farm sale negotiations in 2021 and 2022, Zach and Tori moved from Portland to Battleground, Washington. The distance was significant. Zach did not want to be spending time on the farm during pumpkin season. He was not going to be available to lead private tours. Matt was faced with a problem. Who was going to give the tours if Zach was not around? The solution came, unexpectedly, from Chris Marek. In an episode that aired in season 24 of LPBW in late 2022, Chris was having dinner with Matt, Amy, and Karen at the farm. The conversation turned to pumpkin season and the impending absence of Zach. Chris asked Matt directly, "Do you still need somebody to do tours?" Matt seemed genuinely surprised. He replied, "You want to be a tour guide?" And Chris said that he thought it would be fun. He described the farm as having a great, fun atmosphere. He wanted to be part of it. That moment, captured on camera, was a turning point. Chris was volunteering to step into a role that had traditionally been filled by a Roloff family member. He was volunteering to fill the specific vacancy left by his wife's ex-husband's oldest son. He was, in every symbolic sense, integrating himself more deeply into the extended Roloff family operation. Matt accepted the offer. Chris began preparing to give tours. He had to study the tour script. He had to learn the history of the farm structures. He had to memorize the story of the castle, the pirate ship, the western town, and all the other iconic locations. He had to practice the delivery. He had to figure out how to be entertaining and informative for paying visitors who had come from all over the country to see the farm. In an exclusive sneak peek of the episode where Chris practiced his first tour, he was visibly nervous. He kept asking to stop the tractor so he could get caught up on his script. Karen Chandler joked that she was not sure Chris had actually read the script. Matt brought a friend named Stan onto the practice tour to simulate what he called a cranky old passenger asking crazy questions. Stan asked Chris why the area was called Goat Mountain when there were sheep on it. It was chaotic. It was funny. It was the kind of on-camera moment that made fans laugh and shake their heads at the same time. The important part of the tour guide story was not Chris's technical performance. It was what the arrangement said about the Roloff family dynamics. Because Chris giving farm tours meant that Amy's husband was now professionally involved in Matt's farm business. That is a specific kind of integration. Chris was earning money, presumably in some form, from working at the farm owned by his wife's ex-husband. He was showing up regularly at the farm during pumpkin season. He was interacting with paying customers. He was representing the Roloff family. He was doing all of this with Matt's blessing and support. And crucially, Zach Roloff had given his own blessing to Chris taking over the tour role. In an episode teaser, Chris asked Zach if he would hold it against him for stepping into the role Zach had once filled. Zach's response was, "No, dude." That was it. That was the entirety of the permission Zach gave. No, dude. Chris was free to step into the role. Some fans, when this arrangement was announced, were not thrilled. There were comments on social media accusing Chris of trying to insert himself into a family business he had no right to be part of. There were criticisms of Matt for allowing his ex-wife's husband to have such a prominent role at the farm. There were suggestions that Chris was trying to take advantage of the Roloff name and fame. Most of these criticisms missed the point. Chris was not, by any measure, insinuating himself into the family. He had been invited. Zach had voluntarily stepped back. Matt had accepted Chris's offer. The whole arrangement was consensual and collaborative. The blended family was choosing to integrate its human resources in a way that made pragmatic sense. Chris was available, Chris was interested, Chris was willing, and the tours needed to happen. Beyond the tour guide role itself, Chris and Matt developed a deeper friendship that continued after Chris finished his tour season. They went to dinners together with their respective partners. They went on outings. Chris was there when Matt made important business decisions. Matt was there when Chris and Amy considered buying new properties or making other decisions. In a season 25 conversation, Matt sat down with Chris to discuss his own anxieties about getting married again. Matt had been engaged to Karen since April of 2023 and was, at that point in 2024, still figuring out whether to actually go through with the wedding. He told Chris he was petrified. He said he did not want to change what was working between him and Karen by making it formal. He asked Chris how Chris had felt before marrying Amy in 2021. Chris admitted that he had been concerned about that himself. He said at 59 years old, it was not like he had felt he had to get married, but he had heard so many stories from other couples that had been together for a long time, and as soon as they got married, the relationship had changed. That kind of conversation between an ex-husband and a current husband is only possible when there is genuine friendship and trust between the two men. Chris was being asked for real advice by Matt. Matt was being vulnerable with Chris. They were, in that moment, actual friends helping each other navigate difficult decisions about their romantic lives. It is remarkable when you think about it. That friendship has continued and even deepened in the years since. When Matt and Karen broke off their engagement in July of 2025, Chris was one of the people who supported Matt through the transition. When Matt attended his granddaughter Lila's sporting event in August of 2025, Chris was there beside him and Amy. When the Christmas 2025 family reunion happened in December, Chris was in the matching sweaters photo alongside Matt, Zach, Jeremy, and Jacob. Chris is, in every visible sense, an accepted and welcomed member of the extended Roloff family. He is not a peripheral figure. He is not tolerated because he happens to be Amy's husband. He is genuinely part of the family. Matt sees him as a friend and a brother figure. The Roloff children see him as their stepfather in the fullest sense of that term. The grandchildren see him as another grandparent figure. Chris earned that position by being genuinely kind, respectful, and appropriate over years of interactions. He did not force his way in. He did not push. He just showed up, did the work of being a good partner to Amy and a good friend to Matt, and let the relationships develop naturally. What does this all mean in the broader Roloff family story? A few things. First, that blended families do not have to be dramatic. They do not have to involve ongoing conflict, tension, and rivalries. When adults choose to be adults, blended families can function beautifully. The Roloffs, whatever else they have gone through, have demonstrated one version of what that looks like. Amy has her own marriage. Matt has his own life. The children and grandchildren have both of them in their lives. And crucially, Amy's husband and Matt's ex-husband are friends with each other. That kind of arrangement is a gift to the children, who do not have to navigate hostility between their parents' new relationships. It is a gift to the grandchildren, who get to have all of their grandparent figures in their lives together. And it is a gift to Amy and Matt themselves, who do not have to spend emotional energy managing tension between their new partners. Second, that professional collaboration is possible even across complicated personal histories. Chris giving tours at Matt's farm is not just symbolic, it is practical. It is a business arrangement between two men who happen to be connected through their shared history with Amy. The fact that they can do business together on a farm that is intimately connected to the history Amy and Matt shared is itself a marker of how mature both men are. Third, that friendship between men can develop in surprising contexts. Chris and Matt are not the most obvious pair of friends. They come from different professional backgrounds. They have different personalities. They have different lives. And yet, over time, they have found genuine common ground. They enjoy each other's company. They rely on each other for advice. They trust each other with vulnerable conversations about their marriages. That kind of friendship, in men over 60, is precious. Most men that age do not have many close friends outside their immediate work environments. Chris and Matt have found each other in the most unlikely of contexts, and their friendship enriches both of their lives. Looking at Chris and Matt in 2026, they are still friends. Chris is still available to give farm tours when needed. Matt still relies on Chris as a friend and business advisor. Amy watches this friendship with the kind of grateful amusement that only an ex-wife who has moved on can feel. She has said in multiple interviews that she is happy Chris and Matt are friends. She is happy Matt has a friend like Chris. She is happy that the extended Roloff family can function this well. Chris continues to work in real estate as his primary career. He continues to be a professional in his own right. But the Roloff Farms tour guide role has become part of his broader identity as a Roloff family-adjacent figure. He is, in some sense, Amy's husband, Matt's friend, and the Roloffs' unofficial ambassador all at once. For fans of Little People, Big World, the Chris and Matt friendship is one of the quiet miracles of the show's later years. It shows that reality television does not have to be about drama and conflict. It shows that sometimes the most compelling storylines are the ones where people actually get along, where they figure out how to be adults in the face of complicated family histories, where they choose friendship over hostility. Chris Marek could have been an outsider figure in the Roloff family for the rest of his life. Instead, he has become one of the most important people in Matt's life, and one of the most important members of the extended Roloff family ecosystem. That transformation happened because Chris and Matt both chose to make it happen. And it stands as one of the best examples in reality television of what a healthy blended family can look like. So I want to know what you think. Do you think it is weird that Amy's husband works giving tours on Matt's farm? Or is it a beautiful example of a functional blended family? Do you think Chris and Matt's friendship is one of the most surprising and wholesome storylines of the entire LPBW universe? And do you think other blended families could learn from how the Roloffs have handled their post-divorce dynamics? Or is what they have built specific to their particular situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and I love hearing from you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to LPBW Update, and ring the bell so you do not miss our weekly Roloff family stories. We are committed to bringing you the truth, the timeline, and the heart of every member of this remarkable family. I will see you on the next one.